Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about, I suppose you could call it a form of the Overton window, but talking about what the elites, the globalist cabal, with their near total control of the media, what they are trying to force us to think about or be concerned about, and what they're trying to avoid talking about. Now, in the case of the Overton window, the way it was meant to work, and the initial sort of concept of the Overton window is where the natural sort of organic public discourse would create a series of things that people were concerned about. For example, when the price of housing goes up, the cost of living or the cost of food, and wages don't increase by anywhere near the amount of the price inflation, then people are concerned. People talk about it. People notice it in their day-to-day lives. But the idea of the globalists is, no, we can control the public discourse. We'll just pretend that's not happening, that there are no price rises, or we'll explain it away with something going, nah, it's no big deal. Forget about it. The real issue is global warming, or the real issue is racism, or it's misogyny. Those are the issues. Social, unseen sort of social conflict that only we can define and identify. Those are the real issues for concern. Don't worry about inflation. Don't worry about the homelessness. Don't worry about any of that. That's not important. The real issue here is black lesbian equality. That's the issue. Everybody get out on this. And they've got considerable power, the globalists, to spread this sort of social discord. They've got the ability to get mobs out on the streets waving placards. Again, their control of the media, their control of the body politic. In fact, all the discussion around the issues that they want to achieve prominence, they've got complete power all across the spectrum of communication to force that upon the populace. And again, the real issue, don't worry about inflation. The real issue is black lesbian equality. And you got a problem with that, you fascist Nazi. So with this power and control, they can live in a fantasy world where the issues that they insist we should be concerned about, which are diversionary issues of social discord and attention diversion, they can force those upon us and just ignore the concerns of the populace as if they didn't exist, or something can be explained away, that something that only silly people or Nazis would be concerned about. So if it's something you're concerned about, it's because you're an idiot or a Nazi. But when they're concerned about it, it's virtuous. It's the real important stuff. These are the key issues, and so on. Now, I'm going to go through. This is in Australia anyway. This is the website from a news organisation or a media organisation that's the most watched and referred to and downloaded and accessed in Australia. So it certainly represents the biggest sort of proportion, if you like, of the local media landscape. Now, it's very much in sync with the globalist talking points, with the globalist issues, very in sync with the United Nations and the European Union talking points, which are in turn consistent with the World Economic Forum and those sort of things. So all those guys are they're just globalist propagandists, let's call it what it is, but they're very much in sync. They all say the same talking points, and their control of the media is near absolute. Now, even in media companies that purport to be independent, they still somehow fall in incredible lockstep with the globalist talking points, but not simply as in agreeing with the globalist position on mass migration or the Green New Deal, things like that, but also very quick to declaring on who disagrees as a Nazi, and also to spread the social discord, but also to trash and destroy, undermine and eradicate Western history, Western achievements, Western accomplishments, to soften up the entire Western world for the next phase, which is one assumes their own replacement, and replacement as well with a sort of a fantasy history that doesn't exist in any known reality. So I'm going to go through the top stories here. Now, some of them are news, and others are again just this globalist talking points, or artificially creating the Overton window. And then remember, the Overton window, the acceptable range of public discourse, that should happen organically and naturally with what people are naturally concerned about. For example, cost of living, those sorts of things. But in order to accept that as a legitimate area of concern, then they have to accept then, by extension, the Green New Deal is failing horribly, is an outrageous imposition on citizens who got no vote in it, that mass migration is causing huge social problems again, so that they can't accept, because if they accept concern A of the citizens, the first concern, then they then have to accept other up and downstream concerns. So they can't even allow the discussion to take place. Otherwise, they then have to accept these other things, which they obviously point blank are refusing to do. So it's very premeditated here. Now, the first one is first story here is a white. I'm just going to read through the stories here. I'm just scrolling down. The first story is bad white-led United States being belligerent and so on. Next story is a revolutionary cure for a disease that was all over the Western world, 50 years ago. And you may think that was developed by a couple of straight white guys. No, not a chance. This was developed by a black female. Those white guys, they're all Nazis and fascists. And what they did, because they're so evil, straight white male evil, is this black woman who was just some bush nurse, she actually developed everything. She was the genius behind it. And that achievement was stolen by those evil straight white males. I mean, goodness, and just goes to show how many of the accomplishments of white Western civilization are actually accomplishments of black lesbians. That's now. Here's an oppressed woman's story. And she happens to be a lesbian too. Another oppressed lesbian story showing how evil straight white males are, and oppressed gay lesbian people, and how evil Christians are. Those damn evil Christians. Would gay lesbian people be oppressed or ridiculed or anything by any other religious faith around the world? No, it's only Christians do it. Only Christians, straight white male Christians, again at the epicenter of all that is evil. But don't Islamic faith? No, Christians only. Excuse me. And if you say anything different, you're a racist fucking Nazi. Third world civil war, that's basket case African country that has been a basket case forever, but is somehow it's only white people who caused it. And this just shows that there is a moral obligation, because it's climate change related as well. Wow. A moral obligation of the white countries to take in all these illiterate black peasants. And if the white countries don't do that, well, but this image of a swastika there, Hitler, Nazis. And if you've got a problem with all these illiterate black peasants coming in who've never seen anything like a working light bulb or running water or flushing, if you've got a problem with them coming in, you are Hitler. There another oppressed woman here, that somehow women and lesbians are paying more tax than other people. I don't know how that one works, but there you go. Medical oppression of women. Women are being medically oppressed. Straight women here from the looks of it. and girls are much smarter than boys, and this proves it. A woman's died here, or is believed to have disappeared after she was out night clubbing at 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And she, obviously a straight white male did it. And we just got to get the damn Nazi fascist, and any amount of resources should be put in, because we're going to know all women are oppressed. Women who are night clubbing are oppressed. There are straight white males just running around everywhere trying to rape and oppress women and drug them and rape them and kill them and But hold on a minute, only a very small proportion of the crimes that are committed here are actually committed by white people, straight white males. No, irrelevant. It's just underreporting the other side. And if you say that non-white people do it again, then you are a fascist Nazi. Okay. Now there's a lot of traffic congestion, a lot of people complaining about in some of the suburbs of the big cities that have had massive influx of third world peasants. And is this because of the immigration? No. And if you say that, you're a fascist Nazi, probably Hitler. It's just that the government failed to invest properly in the infrastructure that was necessary, and they should have done this. And because they didn't do it, and because most of the people they allege here impacted are non-white people, then that proves that the government is also racist. I mean, wow. You get two bites of the racist cherry just into one story there. That's pretty good. What else have we got here? So wicked, evil racism by white police against black people, and known to have fascist Nazi associations. It's those damn Nazis again. Wow. I reckon the entire population of the Western world 3 times over are all Nazis. Is there anyone who's not a Nazi at the moment? I mean, wow. Story here about glowing story about Barack Obama, and he's I mean, if there's God, and then just one step below God is Barack Obama, because well, it's not explained here. It's just everyone else is bad, and really, we went from God, Obama, and then to evil fascist Nazi, white supremacist Hitler, Donald Trump. And so if any white people, straight white people, get voted into the United States Congress after the midterm elections, then that's proof that America's fallen completely to fascist, Nazi, bigotry, xenophobia. So great insight by Obama there, and beautifully reported by the this media outlet, uncritically accepts that it is true. If more white people end up going, then that proves that America and the white Western world is fucking Nazi. So then the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, that's covered here. The fact that the guy was, the allegation the guy was some sort of gay prostitute, rent boy type thing, forgotten, walking around in his underwear. Nah. Now, clearly, clearly, this is a case where this guy was sent in to actually get Nancy, but accidentally missed Nancy, and he was personally trained and drilled and advised by Hitler. Hitler did it. Hitler organized this guy, and that's what it was. So clearly, it's white supremacist, fascist, Nazi attacks on the godlike Nancy Pelosi. So that's it. And if you disagree with that, by the way, you are also Hitler. Now, if you've got trouble heating or cooling your home because of the energy price increases, the Green New Deal, it's actually your fault. No, it is. It's your fault because you didn't make your home energy efficient enough. Because if it was energy efficient, you wouldn't need to use more energy, which means you wouldn't need to pay more. So really, it's your fault. But if you're black, lesbian, gay, or anything like that, then it's the government's fault for not paying for everything for you. The Green New Deal is perfect. You cannot criticize it in any way, and that's just how things are. Clearly, the Green New Deal is also important in the next story because the amount of species that are going extinct has apparently some left-wing, black lesbian research group has decided they're going extinct, and which just shows how urgent the Green New Deal is. We have to accelerate it. Do we pay more money? It's not even mentioned about having to pay more money for energy. It's just asserted as an absolute good in every way. There's no and this now what there's one species that's been alleged here is it's a frightening threat, horrific consequences. The language. Now, as soon as you see sort of language like that, it's bullshit. Now, there's an acceptance here in the next story that the cost of rent and home ownership is going up. It's not said why. It's not saying there's mass purchasing by overseas interests and the big end of town, financial end of town of properties. Chinese investors coming in buying up 500 properties a piece and that sort of thing, and then keeping them vacant to use as stack houses for bringing out peasant labour and so on like that. That's not mentioned. It's just somehow the cost just magically went up, and so really communal living, you have to become a hippie, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. Hippie environment, and wow, that's it goes back to the 60s hippie commune concept. Free love and San Francisco, the summer of love, all this sort of thing goes back to that, and that's enough to warm the heart of any hardened lefty. So that's it. Communal living's the way to go, and if you complain about that, you're a Nazi. So a homosexual, a radical activist in climate change was taken hostage somewhere, and that was clearly a case of right-wing extremists, probably Hitler again. But we really need to be on guard for all these Hitlers because they're all over the place. Oppressed minority. There's a prison that has mostly Indigenous people in it, and the living conditions aren't as good as they should be. Therefore, white supremacy, fascism, Nazism again. There's a comment on, here's something you don't see. I mean, in India, for example, the religious and racial riots are just all over the place. I mean, thousands of people die every day from these fucking riots and carrying on. You hardly ever see anything about it in the media. To me, those are relevant stories. You've got an economic basket case of 1.4 billion people, hundreds of millions of whom are desperate to get out of the country and go to the evil white fascist Nazi Hitler West. But it's a basket case of a country, and with constant, as I say, riots, be they racial or religious or whatever, tribal. But you hardly ever see anything about it. And there's an indirect reference to one here, but again, the blame's all on those evil white colonialists. Another story here about oppressed women overcoming all this wicked evil oppression by glass ceilings and evil men and straight white males and rapists everywhere. In spite of all that, this girl does really well. Now, I had a little look at this woman. So I'm talking about affirmative action. She's been given affirmative action breaks and handouts all through. Very unimpressive, and probably wouldn't have made it out of junior high school. So, taxpayer dollars and breaks and awards have been showered upon her. And yet they've got this story here that she's fighting back against the man, the glass ceiling and so on. A load of crap. but yet another opportunity to take a swipe at those evil straight white males. Women's sport is underappreciated, and women's sport should get the same amount of attention as men's sport in terms of spectators and sponsorships and pay and all this sort of thing. Now, what they don't mention here, this is a reference to a soccer team. What they don't mention here is this soccer, the very best soccer team, but women have here, like the World Cup competing team was beaten 7-1 by a bunch of 14-year-old schoolboys who are just in a local side in a regional city. I mean, they're not even anywhere near the best soccer player, male soccer players, junior soccer players in the country, and they still beat the most, the best women's team in the country. They still beat them 7-1, and at a canter. They weren't busting their ass, far from it. So wicked, evil Putin oppressing helpless, this thriving democracy of Ukraine, thriving democracy, free press, multiple parties competing there with their ideas and their policies. It's a country where corruption is just simply unknown. It is the highest standard. The democracy of the first order here being oppressed by evil Vladimir Putin. Wait, hold on. The media's been outlawed. The opposition candidates have been arrested or outlawed. Corruption is rampant and an endemic way of life. Wow, okay. So why are we fighting to support that country? So clean energy again, and this Green New Deal is vitally important, and there's a town that used to, or is still, but it has to transition away from digging coal out of the ground. Now, Australia has some of the cheapest coal in the world. It's close to the surface and can be very efficiently mined and transported to where it's needed. And yet, so in terms of the energy that can be dug out of the ground and put into the coal, it's probably amongst the cheapest energy in the world, from the extraction process to the being delivered to the generating stations, then in turn that electricity being generated through the infrastructure. It's the cheapest in the world, and yet, in the interests of some mythical fantasy Green New Deal, Australians are having to suffer some of the highest energy prices in the world when they've got the option of having the cheapest energy in the world. I mean, you go and figure that. Why are the people forced to suffer for some insane fucking Green New Deal? And now there's a hospital run by straight white males, by the way, and that is a cesspit of child abuse, sexual abuse, rape, women being oppressed, and again, it's all those damn fucking straight white fucking Nazi Hitler males that are doing it. What a story. What else have we got here? Again, women's sport being underappreciated. Any act of violence in the United States is being encouraged by outrageous radical rhetoric from those evil Republican Nazi fascists. And we've got a few more here. More oppression of women, and if you're overweight and black, you're a super oppressed class, and being oppressed by those evil white people again, by the way. And there's now a lesbian sports team here, and they're also Asians, so they, and again, being, the victims of homophobia and misogyny by evil white people. Is it possible to insert this many anti-white and anti-white male stories in just one? And these are supposed to be the burning issues of the day. I mean, holy fuck. Now, is price inflation, like food inflation happening? Well, not really, not really. This is the thing. You think it is, but it's a non-issue. It's a non. No, we don't even need to talk about it. It's a non-issue. There's some seasonal factors. A bit of drought here, a bit of bad weather there. Um, there's a few shortages, and look, it's not a big deal. It's just hey, forget about it. So and any inflation there is around, it's been caused by Putin. Putin did it. So look, nothing to talk about, nothing to see here. Move on. And there are those people that are saying it's an issue, but really they're Nazis. So we don't have to listen to them. So just move on there. Price inflation. Now the cost of food is something, and costs generally, energy and so on. These are absolute areas of concern for people all across the West. And it's being forced on us that, these prices, especially the energy, it's been forced on us without our consent and for absurd and ridiculous reasons. Part of the reduce the living standard of the Western citizen type program that the globalists are vigorously pursuing. And you get the news outlets like this are supporting it. Yeah, it's okay. But it's an area of vital concern for the people, organic, natural people are concerned about it. But some of the lies that they tell, I'm just looking at some of the prices here. The price of one item here has gone up by a little bit over 30%, but they're saying it's only gone up by 8% over the last 12 months. Now, that's simply not true. There was a two-step price increase, and best I can calculate, apart from unless they're telling outright lies, which is certainly a probability here, what they did was they looked at the first price rise, which wasn't a year ago. It was 7 months ago. And they looked at the first price, then compared the price today to the one 7 months ago, and then they can come up with their 8 to 10% increase. So I think they might have done that, or again just telling lies. But the items they've picked on have all increased by between 30 and 50%. But they're saying the increases over the last 12 months, not just recently, but over the last 12 months, are maybe 10% tops. And then they're saying those are due to just seasonal factors and Vladimir Putin, none of which is true, by the way. So this is a way where this is how they downplay the areas of real concern. Nothing to see here. The real issue is equality for black lesbians. And it goes on. Then the oppression, another story about oppression of women, another story about oppression of black minorities, and then there's an acceptance in this other story that there has been price rises in things like food and energy, but that only affects single black women, doesn't affect anyone else. So again, you've got that social division sort of thing, whites should be guilty and so on. And then we're being forced in the Western world to like music by straight white male musicians. It's being forced on us, which is yet another example of fascist Nazi Hitlerism. There you go. Here's another example of it. Forced to do. Do you have the option of buying these music like an album or a CD or whatever in the shop? You've got an option of buying it or not, listening to it or not. No. They say it's forced. I like this. They force the news on us because it's all across the media landscape. You can't access the news without having to look at these stories. But they then flip it over and say that if you've got the as a consumer just the option of buying some music or not, spending the money or not, absolutely at your discretion. No. You're being forced by fucking straight white fucking male Nazis. So what we got here? Another story about about literature, and really the greatest books are written by black women. This idea of straight white male, Shakespeare and all that. No. Black women are writing the best books these days. And if you're not reading books, novels, stories, whatever, written by black women, guess, kind 1, 2, 3, you're a fascist Nazi. So what else have we got here? Another conservation story. The medical establishment is run by straight white males and is oppressing women, particularly black women. There's people are being scammed out of their life savings and so on, but that's only by white males. And white males targeting black people. There you go again. So what we need in the West, some idiots got here, is we need wage increases that keep pace with the cost of living. I mean, I don't think anyone could argue with that. But the argument here is, or the theory put forward is that really there needs to be an extra loading for non-white people because they're the ones that are doing the worst, and therefore they need additional compensation. So if there are to be wage rises, it should only be for people who aren't white. Dirty dealings in politics. So this is the here's another story about increased cost of living, but they're not sort of treating it as a cost of living. They're trying to recast it as the oppression of women rather than price increases and inflation. So okay, so that's the sum up here. But this is not unusual. It's the same across the entire media landscape. Only when you're online, dealing in social media, and you can select the stories you want to listen to, that's the only way you can bypass this. Now, I did a quick look at the other major news outlets, sort of smaller than this one, and there's only one cable channel that gets 50,000 viewers per episode. So a tiny proportion of what these bigger outfits get. And so but the propaganda is so uniform. Nearly every story is attacking straight white males, attacking white history, attacking white traditions, attacking white culture, and creating and sowing this social division, the blame and shame of the white people, and of course talking up the climate change catastrophe stories and downplaying the things that are of real concern to the people. You've been with Tacitus today at Your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.